Hello, this is Tia, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video reading chapters 12 and 13 of Hermitcraft Genesis. We are on book 5, Perspective of Brian. Right now we are in the process of trying to get the hermits back from when we had the ambush at Hermit Fortress. So, yeah. If you haven't read the other parts, obviously, spoilers, but, yeah. There is a playlist in the description if you do want to watch them all, or you can watch the next one when it's available as well in there. Yeah, captions are available. Do whatever you want with that, and let's enjoy the show. Chapter 12. Brian followed Blake, Summer, and Rain back into the main room. The room was filled with occupants. The other interns, along with Matthias, Sean, Kane, and Joel, Claire, Sam, and Liam, were taking care of their newest visitor, Lyra Kimberly, Kate's mother. "Why does the girl look so scared?" Rain asked, looking up at Blake as he led her to a couch. "Shouldn't she be happy to see her mommy again?" "Her mom's sick," Blake said gently, as Rain took a seat on the couch. "Will she get better?" Rain's bright eyes widened with concern. "We have the best potion makers here," Brian said confidently. "She'll get better." "I hope you're right," Blake whispered, looking over at Brian. "She nearly lost her mother a couple months ago, due to a poisoned river." Brian gulped, taking a seat next to Summer. "Liam can do it, right?" "I know he can," Isaac reported simply, his eyes flashing with confidence when Brian looked his way. "You know better than any of us. Nothing stops him." Brian smiled. "Yeah." "Why are we all here?" Summer asked quietly, wary of the other people in the room. "We were planning on a rescue mission to go after the hermits," Caleb said. "Hermits? You remember the stories I told you?" Brian asked. "How a bunch of people came to the school when it was under threat by Campbell?" Rain nodded. "I remember." "Yeah, the older kids wouldn't stop bragging about it." Summer shook her head. "How they fought alongside YouTubers." "Well, the hermits were there," Brian said calmly. "I met B-Dubs and his protector Isaac, thanks to a request from Liam, and pretty soon more of his friends arrived. We were able to stop Campbell's men from burning down the school, thanks to them." Summer nodded. "And now they're in trouble." "Yeah," Aaron said. Summer sighed, leaning against the cushion. "This was supposed to be a safe place, right?" "Yep, just like the school was supposed to be safe," Caleb agreed. "We made sure of it, any possible way we could, but they still found a way to get around it, to catch us off guard. So we're going to go after them and get our friends back." "Can we help?" Rain asked quietly. "No, you certainly are not helping. At least, not going back down there," Summer said matter-of-factly. "It's too dangerous." "But Henry said we'd come back for them," Rain persisted. "You're exhausted." Summer brushed a strand of hair from the girl's eyes. "Besides, you only have level 1 combat training. These guys play dirty. You saw what happened yesterday." Rain shuddered, scooting closer to Summer at the older girl's side. "I'm sorry, but I don't want to risk you getting hurt. Dad wouldn't want that either." "I want to help." Rain pouted disappointedly. "It could be something you could do. You could do if you're up for it." Okay. Why am I getting notifications for job opportunities now while I'm recording? That's a good question. When I wasn't getting it earlier, Liam reported from the hallway, entering the room. "Someone needs to stay here and make potions in case we need them. You can help with that?" Rain's eyes brightened. "Really?" Liam nodded. "Really." "But I still need to go," Summer replied. "You don't know where they are. I could take you back there." "Are you sure?" Luke frowned. "You look tired from all that running you did to get here." Summer raised her chin. "Henry and Charlie are still down there. They're my friends, too." Brian smiled, putting his hand on her shoulder. I promised Lizzie I'd get you all back safely. Not leaving without them. Or you, either. Summer met his gaze. So who's going? Obviously the protectors are going, Isaac said simply. Which is me, Caleb, Liam, Matthias, and Blake. One of you interns can come along too if you to help with anyone else. Can I go? Eliza asked. I haven't had a chance to do a rescue mission yet. Not official one, anyway. Doesn't Clara get a say? Julius asked. She's Gis's protector. She's working with Kate to create an antidote for Lyra. Liam replied. Matthias is in charge. Matthias shook his head. We need a team still here, in case there is any trouble. Josh and I can stay, Luke offered. Aiden and Aaron can stay with us. We can show them how to work the cameras and stuff. Sure, Aaron replied, giving the twins a side glance. So that's 6 so far, Julius replied. 7 including Brian. Summer said simply, 8 with me. We haven't agreed if you should go, Kane warned. You don't know how to get there. And you're going to need to get there fast, Summer said determinedly. She's not going to wait for you to interrupt her plans. You're right, Matthias nodded his head solemnly. How good of a swordswoman are you? I've only been learning for 2 months, Summer admitted sheepishly. If you stick with one of us, you should be okay, Brian said gently. So you'll let me go? She asked hopefully. Matthias chuckled. If you're anything like Caitlin or the Jameses, nothing is going to stop you from helping your friends. Summer gave him a small smile, looking down at Rain beside her, who had fallen fast asleep. Dad would have done the same thing. He would be proud of both of you, Brian whispered into her ear. Tears filled her eyes. I think we'll ever see him again. If there's a chance he's alive out there? Brian squeezed her shoulder. If he is out there, I'm sure he'll find a way to get back to you. I know it. Summer wiped away tears from her eyes. Is there a bed we can leave Rain at? We should probably go as soon as we can. I agree. Kate's voice burst from the hallway as she appeared beside Liam, her gray eyes wide. It's happening. Now you're glad I continued on to Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Brian stood near the elevator, waiting for it to open. Summer, Isaac, Caleb, Aaron, and Blake were already downstairs in the tunnel system below. Beside him was Kate, fidgeting restlessly, her eyes not leaving the elevator door. Are you sure you want to do this? Liam asked, putting a hand on her shoulder. Kate stilled, but didn't look at him. I'm sure, she said defiantly. I've given Clara what she needs to help Mom. There's nothing else I could do here. I can't just sit around worrying while the hermits are being tortured. Why would Rainstone want them anyway? Brian frowned. Kate turned. Experiments, maybe, but not just her down there. Mr. A and RJ are with her. What? Brian gasped. Kate nodded grimly. I had a chance to meet them. They're not happy that the hermits keep foiling their plans, so they want to deal with them first. We'll get them out of there, Liam said gently, stepping forward until he was beside the girl. Kate nodded. Just can't stop the wave of fear and pain I'm feeling right now. It needs to stop. More ways than one. Kate nodded. Liam smiled sadly. I know. I almost reread the same thing again. Can you believe it? The elevator doors opened. Kate ran into the machine. The boys right behind her. Brian watched the door close, his mind racing with the revelation he'd been given. Mr. A and RJ were free, and the doctor was working with them. What were they planning to do? Did the hermits know? Was that why the base was ambushed? Brian shook the questions from his mind. Now was not the time to get distracted. Charlie and Henry were down there. He had to find them, to stop Dr. Ransstone from hurting them as she had to so many others. How many of them do you think there will be? Kate asked, breaking the silence inside the elevator. Depends on how successful Rainstone was in recruiting people, Lee replied. Just a lot of the defectors on our side, Brian warned. You know anything about them? Kate glanced at his direction. She didn't say much, Brian said, staring down at his shoes. I heard some names being thrown around. Who? Liam pressed. It's possible we might see them down here. Brian looked up, reading Liam's eyes just as the elevator door opened. Convenient. There you are. Eliza poked her head through the opening. What took you so long? Eliza, sorry. I keep getting those two mixed up. It's hilarious in writing and in speech. It's funny. They're totally different girls. Did that to myself. It takes 5 minutes to get down here every time. Liam shook his head. Well, let's go. We can't hide from this camera forever, Eliza hissed. Kate nodded. We're getting close. Feel something? Caleb asked, as the trio stepped out of the elevator and into the dark, deep slate tunnel. The only lights were the occasional torch lighting the right wall. This looks nicer than it was last time, Liam noted. Sure does, Blake nodded. Summer's been telling us about the maze. They must have added it recently. Do you know the way? Kate asked, looking over at Summer. The other girl nodded, her eyes not leaving the darkness of the tunnel. We need to get moving, now that we're all here, Matthias advised, pulling out a long iron sword. Be ready for anything. The guards who chase the students still might be lurking around, especially if they know Summer went to get help. Summer gulped. We aren't walking into a trap, are we? Brian rested a hand on her shoulder, reassuringly. We got this. Just stick with me. She managed to smile as she straightened, looking more confident and ready. The group marched forward, cautiously watching the shadows for any sign of Mistray's men. The tunnel was quiet as the path split three ways. The maze had begun. The group walked, following Summer's directions. Brian stood beside her, ready to jump to her defense. At least he hoped he was. Kate groaned behind him. Brian glanced back to see a pained look on her face. What's happening? Liam asked, keeping pace with each step. Gerald, Kate spat. It's forcing Scar into a nightmare that never ends. Are you sure it isn't the interrogator? He's making it worse. Kate shook her head. Gerald's only giving him memories where he hurt him. Nothing else. Brian shuddered. We're getting close. Kate nodded solemnly. Why are you doing that? We have to hurry. Who knows what tortures the other hermits are going through? We can't let them do this. Not without some resistance. Let's go, Caleb stated firmly. The other interns nodded in agreement as the group marched forward, each step drawing closer as they came to the rescue. Chapter 14? Yeah, seems a little short. Let's continue. Chapter 14. You probably could figure that out from the title of the video. Wow. Honestly, it'd be this one. Yeah. We got. Okay. Just check the chapters. Yeah, they're just on the side, so I can see how many there are. There are 19 chapters plus the epilogue, if you're curious for book 5. So, yeah. The maze was much larger than Brian had expected, not only in width but also in length, as they followed the rescue team through its windy paths. It felt like they had been walking between these walls for hours. Everything looked the same. Dark, deep slaty gloominess hung in the air around them. Every turn seemed to lead to more choices, and each one Summer guided them through, with pointers from Kay when she needed clarity. They had to be getting close. Brian was sure of it, as they kept walking onward. Each direction looked to be a mile long. Were there more exits in this maze? Seemed likely if Rhinestone wanted to keep tabs on all the hermits who lived here. How much further do we need to go? Eliza whispered. She was walking beside Blake and Isaac. The young men stared straight ahead, alert. A few more turns, Summer reported. I'm surprised we haven't run into any of Mr. Haley's goons, Kate said simply. I could be guarding the entrance, Liam cautioned. As this is the only way in, that would make the most sense. I don't like this, Caleb frowned, his eyebrows furrowed. It's too quiet. I agree. His eyes tensed as they rounded a corner. The group could see no sign of anyone up ahead. Brian put a hand on the hilt of his sword. The sword Joel had given him. He noticed Liam looking over to the far wall ahead before moving his gaze to the other side. What are you looking for? Brian asked softly, stepping back to speak with his friend. Secret rooms, Liam replied. They could be waiting until we pass through so they can cut us off from escape. Brian shuddered. You've really got smart over the past year. Liam nodded grimly. Yeah, I have. One more turn, Summer urged. Her voice was strong in the midst of the shadow, like a beacon in the darkness. We should see some iron doors at the end of the next tunnel. The group followed the girl to the next bend of the maze as she turned the corner. Brian was close by when he heard a block break behind them. Stay right where you are, a gravelly voice warned. As Brian rose, he could see the others around him grabbing for their swords as footsteps filled the tunnel that weren't their own. We've been watching your movements throughout the maze. I have to say, that child has impeccable memory. Stay away from her, Kate snapped, whirling around. Brian turned, gulping as he saw half a dozen men behind them. I don't think you have much of a choice, one of the men sneered. He was holding a gas blaster in hand, aiming it at the group. Brian frowned. How had he gotten his hands on one of those? Did he snatch it from one of the hermits when their things were taken from them? The doctor was hoping one of the girls would be able to help her with something. Yeah, right, Isaac scoffed. You're experimenting on children. You would have done the same for her and her sister if they hadn't escaped. The man with the gas blaster smiled. And you think you'll find the two boys happy and well after what they did? Summer narrowed her eyes. Where are they? What did you do to them? The man shrugged. The same we did with the other children. None of them survived. The boys just had a higher dose as punishment for trying to escape. Fire, Brian said firmly. The man chuckled. There's nothing to find here, I'm afraid. You're coming with us, and you will cooperate, or there will be consequences. The last time I heard that, the guy got his throat ripped out. Brian lifted his chin. What? Kate gasped, her wide eyes looking at him. You think you're so clever? The man jeered. So close to saving your friends. There's nothing you can do about it. Shall see about that, Messiah said, raising his blade. He charged forward as the enemy attacked. Brian pulled out his sword, ready to fight when Liam grabbed him by the arm. We need to get through that door and help the hermits, Liam whispered, glancing over at Kate and Summer. Kate was shielding Summer as one of the men tried to lunge for the younger girl. The others will be right behind us. You sure? Brian asked. I've done this plenty of times before. Liam smiled. I'm sure. Okay. Brian put away his sword and ran over to Summer, pulling her out of the fight. She turned to him, opening her mouth to protest. Follow me. Liam has a plan. The girl nodded as the two of them began heading to the iron doors. Liam and Kay were right behind them. They arrived at the door in no time as Brian shoved it open, his blood freezing cold when he heard a scream fill the area. Come on! Kay urged, pushing Brian out of the way, charging into the main area, straight for the hallway. It was much brighter than the dingy deep slate tunnel that Brian was used to as the teen let his eyes adjust. Ahead, the hallway forked into two directions, right or left. We should follow her, Liam stated. We don't know how many interrogators there are. Too many, that's for sure, Summer grumbled as another scream filled the room. She looked over at Liam. You think they were telling the truth? Charlie and Henry are gone? Liam looked down at her, his bright blue eyes filled with Sadness. I don't know. But there are people here who need us. We can't let them down. Summer nodded as the group ran after Kate, who had turned to the right fork of the hallway. Brian glanced over his shoulder to the open iron doors, seeing shadows in the tunnel. The battle was still going. A lump formed in the boy's throat. It wouldn't be long before any survivors would come for them. The group made it to the end of the hall just as the explosion filled the air, followed by a scream. One of the open iron doorways lit up with bright flame before the fire disappeared from view. Another scream filled the hall as Brian charged toward one of the open cell doors, peeking in to see 3 figures. To the left of the door, he could see a man seated at a table, fiddling with a control panel, while the second figure loomed over the third, who was on their knees. Brian blinked. He recognized the figure as his heart began to race. I won't make him stop until you give me what I want to know, the man looming over the helpless figure demanded. A groan filled the room as Brian pulled out his sword. I don't know where she is. I don't know where any of them are, the shaky voice insisted. Beat-ups. Brian tensed, clutching the hilt of his sword tightly. You must know. You worked with her before, the man snarled, gesturing over to the seated figure. The man pressed the button as the hermit screamed in pain. Please, I'm telling you, I don't know where she is. Brian rushed into the room, charging the man at the table. The man's eyes grew wide, seeing the young man approach as he tried to dodge out of the chair. Brian caught up with him and shoved him to the ground, knocking the man out quickly as he whirled to the interrogator. The man turned to face the boy, surprise clearly on his face, although it didn't last long, as the man sneered at him. What do you think you're doing here? He stood in front of Beat-ups, blocking his view. Brian could see the hermit's cheeks were soaked with tears, his long-sleeved white shirt soaked with sweat. What does this look like? Brian raised an eyebrow. I'm not going to sit back and let you hurt my friends. I'm sure you know that. I can see why Andrew would think children like you are nuisances, the man snickered, pulling out his sword. You learn to save the world, and yet you can't save your own. Brian wrong one. Beat-ups yelped as the man grabbed him, forcing him to his feet. Brian lunged forward, tackling the man as the sword hurled through the air out of reach. Brian pinned his own blade to the man's neck as he grunted. I'm not going to let you do that. What you do, kill me. The man's gray eyes gleamed as if the boy's actions amused him. Why did he seem so calm, so sure of himself? Ryan? Beat-ups groaned. Ryan looked up, seeing his friend sit up, reaching for the headband that was still glowing bright. Beat-up's stormy gray eyes were blinking with confusion. Hi, Brian smiled, yelping when the man underneath him hurled him off. The boy toppled over, slamming into the hermit as Beat-ups cried out. You don't know what you're doing, do you? The interrogator sneered, getting to his feet, picking up Brian's fallen sword. Brian scrambled off Beat-ups, watching the man warily. He strolled over to the machine. Beat-ups swallowed fearfully beside him as Brian went to stand. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Kate warned, as a fireball exploded with light from the open doorway, blasting the machine. As it burst into flames, Beat-ups gasped at the brilliant light before it died away, leaving nothing but ashes. Cut that! The man whirled around, charging at the girl. Brian went after him, but stopped in his tracks when Kate fired again, sending the man hurtling across the room, collapsing to the ground, growing still. Is he? Beat-ups whispered, his voice hoarse from screaming. No, you'll live. Kate lowered her blaster. She looked over at Brian. You good here? Matthias and the others are just down the hall. I think so. Brian patted his pocket. Got rope, got everything else we need. Medkit? She raised an eyebrow. After spending months helping Liam, you should know I'd carry one around. Brian mused. She nodded. Okay. I'm going to see if Jem and Pearl are okay to help. Scar? Impulse? Beat-ups asked weakly. Brian turned to see the hermit stumble to his feet. He ripped the headband off his head. but his eyes were still full with agony and pain. Kate's gaze softened. Not far. You should get back to the base. But Beat-Ups protested, nearly collapsing to the ground when he took a step, but Brian caught him, keeping him steady. You don't look too good, Brian said gently, squeezing the hermit's shoulder. He's trying not to tell them. Beat-Up swallowed. They're trying to force it out of him. What? Brian asked, looking over at Kate. Who? Beat-Up shook his head. His body was shaking from the pain that the headband had put him through. Kate nodded, disappearing out of the room. I need to find Liam, Beat-Up muttered, trying to pull away from Brian. I can take you to them, but then we're heading out, okay? Brian insisted. Beat-Up looked up at him and nodded. Okay. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's chapter 12 through 14 read to you. Yeah, next week we'll be on to chapter 15, 16. Honestly, it doesn't matter how long ago it goes. Yeah. Might get some time yet. I've gotten a good portion of the next story out. I've got a working title, Hermitcraft Freedom, right now, but I don't know if I'm going to change the title. But honestly, we'll see. We'll see. But I do have a working title. I'm just writing the story and seeing what happens. It's getting nice. Good to say. Stampy fans are going to have fun with this point. You're both a Stampy fan and a Hermitcraft fan. You're gonna like next one. But stay tuned. The next few chapters, you might get a surprise of your own. I'm not gonna spoil it, but yeah, I'm not done with cameos just yet. I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.